Welcome once again to Sahara TV's State of the Nation, and with us is Deji Adeyanju. We'll be looking at two topics in this session. First is the return of fuel scarcity in the country, and secondly, we'll also be looking at Tinubu's presidential ambition. Is it a fast? Deji, welcome to Sahara TV once again.
Thank you very much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Nigerians were lamenting about the recent fuel scarcity being experienced in Lagos and Abuja and other parts of the country. And just last night, the group managing director and chief executive officer of the Nigerian NNPC, Mele Kyari, disclosed how adulterated petroleum motor spirit, also known as petrol, was brought into the country. And they actually indicted 5 companies with that. Questions are being raised, as a matter of fact, on NNPC's role as sole importer. Questions are being asked. What's your reaction to this, please?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unbelievable that our country, so rich in natural resources, is plagued with incompetent leaders and managers of our resources. And this is the height. Since 1960, we've never had it this bad, where PMS is blatantly adulterated. I have seen several videos of Nigerians showing the level of rot of the adulteration. It is unacceptable. It's an economic crime. It's a sabotage against the Nigerian economy. And those culpable should be dealt with. This is even worse than the subsidy fraud during the PDP eras, and coming from people who promised change, who made all kinds of unbelievable promises and prophetic promises in 2014, 2015. This is why it will be difficult for the common man and the ordinary Nigerians to ever trust politicians again.
Now, let's get this fact cleared out. NNPC is supposed to be the sole importer of PMS into the country. That has been even in record since 2015. But during Mele's presser yesterday, it was pointed out that it was implying that other companies like MRS, Uwando, and others are part of the petrol importation process. Why is the sole importer of petroleum, and why is it difficult for NNPC to actually supply over 180 million Nigerians with petrol?
Yes, this is just incompetence at the highest order, simplicity. There's no any other definition or word for describing incompetence. Incompetence is when a man who is saddled with the responsibility of his family fails and he begins to blame his children for their lack of home training. Incompetence is when the fuel attendant, who should be mindful of the liters being sold to the buyer, begins to give excuses that, he was not looking at the meter while selling it. So this is incompetency, simplicity. That is what the NNPC is displaying. And they are the one who are responsible. They have a duty of care to Nigerians to make sure that goods that are sold to ordinary Nigerians and to customers are fit for purpose. And in the circumstance, the goods have not been fit for purpose. And it's a contractual agreement between the Nigerian people and the NNPC. The Nigerian people do not have dealings. We do not have a contract or a social contract with the people that NNPC are partnering with. We have a subsisting contract with the NNPC. The NNPC has failed to deliver on the terms of the contract. Nigerians have furnished consideration, which is by paying for price as fixed by the regulators. But Nigerians are now at the receiving end in the contract. So it is unfortunate, it is regrettable. However, people must be sacked in Senate climes where countries are working. The NNPC GMD should not be in office by now. The Minister of Petroleum will have resigned. The president himself will have recused himself from that ministry and hand it over to competent professionals in this, in the sector. So this is a country where anything goes, and that's why the man can come on national TV, embarrass himself, embarrass the country, and insult the sensibility of Nigerians.
So it's quite evident that NNPC doesn't have the capacity to import PMS without going through somewhere else. Now, according to Kiari, he also mentioned the fact that the methanol in the PMS was not detected by checks because the quality does not include checks for methanol percentage. Does that incompetency actually reflects that? I
Yeah,
mean,
no, he's now trying to take incompetency to another level. He's trying to make incompetency an official government policy. Because how can you come and say the quality of products that the most populous country in Africa are using, that you cannot ascertain the quality of such products? And you are supposed to be a specialist in the oil sector. You are supposed to be a professional. It comes to the issue of duty of skill and care. You know, someone who handles the petroleum sector of our country, who oversees the NNPC, should know better. Even a layman who sells petrol as a fuel attendant in a filling station should know better than the GMD of NNPC. It means that we are not putting round pegs in round holes in this country. We are putting square pegs in round holes in this country. And it's regrettable, it's unfortunate. If Malam Kiari has any sense of decency, he ought to have resigned by now. If the president was up to task, you know, and if the president knows that he is enjoying the mandate of the people, you know, and that the people put him in office, things like this will not be condoned or permitted in a country as huge and as populous as Nigeria.
The panic around this dirty petrol saga, analysts have actually shown, is symptomatic of the country's unwillingness to reform. And why is it difficult for Nigerian leaders to actually reform vis-a-vis either based on their failure to fix the Nigerian refineries? Um,
Yeah, basically, you see, it's this culture of non-accountability that because these leaders, they do not feel accountable to the people because elections are rigged, you know, the electoral system is compromised, you know, and they find all sorts of ways to get into office. So they feel that they do not owe the Nigerian people any form of accountability or transparency whatsoever. If not, you know, these things will not be permitted. Again, it brings us again, narrows us to the principle in law of the polluter pays. So who gets to bear the brunt for the damages suffered to people's vehicles, engines, you know, different mechanical engines that are being made to run factories that will break down as a result of using diluted petroleum products in the whole country. So who pays? It should be the polluter who pays. It should be NNPC who pays. It should be NNPC who compensates people. There should be class action suits now, if this was in America, you know, and other developed climes, you know, and this is where we say we need lawyers, you know, civil rights movements, and people in the fold of Ganifa Emi, Femi Falana, Ulisagbakoba, Michael Zokome, and others, you know, especially new generation of firebrand lawyers to rise to the occasion. Ganifa Emi litigated on almost every issue of concern to the Nigerian people. And that's why Ganifa Emi, you know, is seen today, is revered in all stratas of our society as the moral compass of the legal profession. You know, so we are making an appeal to members of the bar in the country that NBA must raise the bar. By now, we should have a class action by the Nigerian Bar Association and several other people, you know, on this subject matter, you know, and several other such issues.
One would have expected that Nigerian leaders have not learned the importance of deterrence, and this is the fact that, as you stated, heads should have rolled at this point in time. Clearly shows that the government at the highest level is quite complicit. Now, what should be done to remedy this situation and to prevent a reoccurrence in the future, considering the fact that, I mean, if this is allowed to go this way, what stops the next set of people doing the same?
Yeah, you see, the attention span of Nigerians is very short and limited, you know, and Nigerians, they have this culture of forgiving incompetency and condoning impunity in all stratas of our societal lives, whether it be in private sector, public sector. That's why banks will debit people unjustly, people will not sue, people will forgive and forget. Government incompetence, hospitals will kill family members due to negligence. People will take the corpses and go and bury without suing the hospitals. Fuel stations will sell bad products to citizens. Citizens will refuse to take class action. And that's why Issei Sage said in his book about the issue of litigating, that it takes the extraordinaries, people like Gani, to litigate an action from court of first instance up to the Supreme Court. Because it's a country where you are not even sure of the outcomes, because the system is so corrupt, so compromised, that it leaves room for hope. However, the never-do spirit of the Nigerian people in succeeding in trade, in investment, in sports, in entertainment, and other sectors is what we should tap in, to fight for social justice issues, and social integration of our country. I believe that the right steps for us to do is to take class action, is to mount pressure on government, is for government to wake up to its responsibility, because we are all on the receiving end, whether we like it or not. Our economy is highly dependent on petroleum products. And so if the petroleum product chain is compromised and the social contract between the government and the people is broken, the economy will eventually break down. And the artificial scarcity being witnessed in the country today, for many of our comrades in Kano and all parts of the country, Abuja, Lagos, everywhere, everybody is complaining. Everybody is at the receiving end. And what this will invariably mean is that there will be hyperinflation if this trend is not quickly curtailed. So government must wake up to responsibility, sack those that need to be sacked, and quickly halt the sale of these compromised products immediately.
Thank you very much. Well, away from that issue of the fuel scarcity, we're looking also at the issue of Tinubu's presidential ambition. We always knew the day will come when the former Lagos State governor and the national leader of the APC, Bola Tinubu, will declare his interest in running for president. And it has actually come to that day, knowing fully well that he has been calculatively amassing the resources that will land him in Aso Rock. Let me ask you, can Nigeria afford a Tinubu's presidency?
Nigerians sincerely cannot, and, these political ancestors, like I like to call them, the Tinubus, the Atikus, and all these people, I believe that it is time for them to retire. The country has been more than magnanimous to them, and how do you justify a man like Tinubu, who openly boasted in Osun during the last gubernatorial election, that he's richer than Osun State, a federating unit within the Federal Republic of Nigeria as enshrined under the Constitution, an individual who has no known source of income anywhere. We openly boast that he's richer than a federating unit in a federal system of government, and that is the kind of character that wants to lead Nigeria. This is a private jet driving, mansion, unexplainable resources, billions, amounting in billions owner. This is somebody who was caught with 2 billion bonds on the eve of the last presidential election in his house. And he came out openly to boast that it's his money. Did anybody complain that their money is missing? That's the character, that want to now govern Nigeria. It's unfortunate that, our country will patronize destroyers of our nation like this kind of characters. It is regrettable. However, one thing we should be mindful of is that Bola Tinubu should be in jail. He shouldn't be running for any elective position in this country, because by being in custody of 2 billion bonds alone, that is alone is enough evidence to send him to jail and bar him perpetually from holding any public office. Section 1 of the Money Laundering Prohibition Act states that no individual shall be in custody of more than 5 million naira. And a body corporate, that is a growing concern within the interpretation and meaning of the Company and Allied Matters Act, is that a growing concern, like a body corporate, cannot be in possession of more than 10 million naira. So what is an individual? A politician at that. Because even Dangote should not be seen with bullion vans, because he's an individual. Even Dangote group of companies should not be seen with bullion vans, because Bola Tinubu is not a commercial bank. Bullion banks only move from Central Bank of Nigeria to commercial banks. So this man has been found culpable. He has been found wanting. He should be in jail. He shouldn't be running for president. He should be in jail. And that's why we still have a subsisting petition at the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission against Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And we are urging on the new chairman, because we wrote this and we are going to send a reminder shortly to the new chairman, that Bola Ahmed Tinubu should not be above the law, that this man should be in jail. He should be in jail for committing a crime against the Nigerian people.
Now, consider the fact that he also has heavy weight with regards to his moral baggage, and considering his identity being shrouded in incredulous falsehoods, do Nigerians really have what it takes to repudiate the very virtues of ethical visions, accountability, and the moral courage of this element like Tinubu?
You see, naturally, the age of retirement should be 60, right? Now, if the age of retirement should be 60, these men should be in retirement homes by now. These are grandparents, who should be. Imagine if our grandparents come out now and say they want to contest. We are practically taking care of our grandparents now, and we know the challenges these men face. And you can see the way President Buhari has practically almost crippled the economy of Nigeria and even the polity and the governance structure of the country because of his old age. This is somebody that said Nigerians should celebrate him for working for 6 hours. An underdeveloped country, even a developed country like the US, you find their president working for 16, 15 hours. So not to talk more of an underdeveloped country, we are backward in technology, in everything, in every form of advancement, we are backward. So we need an upwardly mobile, upwardly strong, upwardly healthy president, invariably. However, you find out that Tinubu was doing consultation for 1 week and he went to London and spent almost 2 weeks in the hospital. So, and we are seeing a repeat of the abracadabra of 2014, 2015, because it was the same thing that Buhari was doing. The signs were present there, but Nigerians were gullible. They played to the gallery and allowed themselves to be deceived, and this is why we're making the wake-up call now that a repeat is about to happen again, and that people must be mindful that these ancestors who dress in jeans, t-shirts, and sneakers, they have nothing to offer this country. They are deceivers. This game, we have seen it over and over again. There's nothing new that these people have to offer. And morally, someone like Bola Ahmed Tinubu, like I usually call him, the Jagaban of the looters, does not have any moral rights, to be contesting for the highest office in the land. Because how do you explain somebody being in custody of 2 billion vans if he did not acquire that through looting? How do you? Bola Ahmed Tinubu has explanations to do at the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission.
There were also allegations. I really also love to get your reactions towards this. There were allegations of the Vice President Deji Adeyanju and Tinubu in cahoot, tax fleecing businesses. What is the relevance and the significance of this with regards to Alpha Beta, which has been in the news, and there were revelations by People's Gazette recently, and concerning this duo and the indicted companies, doesn't this call for a close, reasoning by Nigerians to actually reject elements like this?
Yeah, I have seen the allegation against the Vice President and the Asiwaju of the looters about, their dirty business in Lagos and how they were involved in all kinds of money laundering by the online platform People's Gazette. I'm not surprised in the least. Oshibajo has always been a lackey of Bola Tinubu over the years. He has never hidden this. I think politically, he was the one that nominated him vice president in the first place. And this is why we say, Nigeria is just an anyhow country where people don't practice what they preach. And we have also seen a recent story, I think 2 or 3 days ago, where it has been alleged that GTB Bank funded the campaign of the vice president against the electoral law provisions. And you can see these are the kind of characters that say they want to lead Nigeria. And Oshibajo is also trying to be president. You can see that these guys, they lack any moral compass or moral justification, or moral fulcrum to say that they can aspire to the highest office in the country. But Nigeria is where they hire the fraud, they hire the deception, the more likely it is for you to get elected into public office. If Buhari can do it, then why can't Oshibajo or Tinubu do it? You know, this is a country where people are very gullible and people play politics of tribe and ethnicity. You know, so sometimes I see many of the Southwest people supporting their own fraud. And when it is time of the Southeast, you also find a significant number in the Southeast and Southwest, Northwest, and all other parts of the country supporting their own frauds.
Now, finally, there has been clamor in some sections of this country calling for the presidency to go to the Southeast based on equity, inclusivity, and fairness, zoning and competency. What's your view about this? Can the Southeast actually produce a candidate that has a cross-national appeal to win election and that has the capacity and competence to manage the country better?
Yeah, equity demands that for good conscience in the country, that we should naturally cede power to the Southeast, having considered that they've never had power at any point in time, you know. And if you look at it critically, since return to democracy, Southwest under Obasanjo 8 years, Oshibajo is now vice president. The Northeast under Obasanjo had 8 years of vice presidency as well. Northwest had a brief stint during Jonathan. Yaradua was there for a year and a half, thereabout. You know, now Buhari is there from the Northwest. You know, so almost every section of the country has felt the impact of governance, except the North Central and the Southeast. So if equity should prevail politically, you know, the Southeast and the North Central should naturally be the zones to be considered for any form of political compensation. However, unfortunately, power is not given by anyone to anyone. Power is taken. And I do not see anyone in the Southeast today who has the gravitas, you know, who has the potential, who has the political capital to take power from the current political arrangement in the country. The Southwest, that should naturally be barred from contesting or even seeking power, is one of the loudest today, even in seeking for power, as the debate rages on for Southern presidency. You know, again, you know, I have also seen that critical political stakeholders in the North are hell-bent on taking power. The PDP in particular is likely to see this presidential ticket to the North, because if you look at the political permutations in the country, see that the PDP is not interested in equity for now. The PDP is just interested in winning the next election, because they've been out of government for the past 8 years. So ideally, the PDP will be praying that the APC goes south, which they are likely to go, so that they can go north, so that they can easily win the election. Because the argument would be that if they give a northern candidate who is reasonably popular, you know, that the bulk votes from the north will be significant. And to also convince other people in other zones to say, oh, after all, we're going to be picking a presidential candidate from your zone. You know, and so that is the political permutations that I believe are currently ongoing. However, nothing is cast in stone politically. The dynamics change. I have listened to the argument by Rotimi Akeredolu, governor of Ondo State, was it yesterday or the day before, that he says that any party that gives power to the North will lose the next general election. Again, the disadvantage. I've also listened to some of the insinuations by Governor Wike. The implication of some of the remarks is that, yes, it may force the hand of critical stakeholders to look south. However, it can also unite the North together to say, if the South are taking a position that they want to go in the same direction, then the North, the critical players in the North, will go in the same direction. And at the end of the day, this will affect the political dynamics of the country. So it's a tricky situation. And so as a political student, as a student of history and an analyst, I would say that my fingers are crossed. And sincerely, though I want the Southeast to produce the next president, I do not see it happening, except maybe by some last-minute political onslaught.
Thank you very much, Deji Adeyanju. We appreciate your insightful analysis and perspective.
Thank you for having me.